What if the person who hurt you most was also the one who saved you, and they never told you? This is the kind of question that can break a person or set them free, and this story shows that even the longest wait for the truth can be worth every painful second. Eleanor Whitcomb had exactly 1 week to find a new writer or lose the show entirely. It was October 1956. The studios of WBOS sat above a dry cleaner on Boylston Street, and the smell of steam and chemicals drifted up through the floor every afternoon. Eleanor had worked there for 9 years. The last 3 without her husband. The show, Voices from the Commonwealth, had been Robert's idea, his voice, his vision. After he died, she had kept it alive through stubbornness and grief and the particular kind of determination that has nowhere else to go. Now the lead writer had quit without notice, the fall sponsor was threatening to pull funding, and her station manager had given her 7 days to prove the program could survive without a complete overhaul. The man who walked in on Tuesday morning said his name was Daniel Cross. He had a worn leather portfolio, a firm handshake, and the look of someone who had learned to seem unremarkable on purpose. He was perhaps 40, with grey already at his temples and eyes that moved across her office like he was memorizing it. He said he had heard she needed a writer. He said he worked quickly and asked for nothing unusual in return. Eleanor hired him on a Thursday. By Friday, he had written the strongest opening segment the show had aired in 2 years. She told herself it was purely professional. She told herself that for about 3 weeks. They fell into a rhythm without deciding to. He arrived before anyone else and left after the last broadcast. She brought 2 cups of coffee from the cart on the corner because it was efficient, not because she had started to notice the way he held a pencil. He asked questions about Robert's original vision for the show, and she answered carefully, the way she had learned to talk about her husband, with precision and controlled warmth, and a door she kept most of the way closed. He listened as though every word was worth writing down. Boston in autumn had a particular quality of light, low and amber, that came through the studio windows in the late afternoon and made everything feel slightly more significant than it was. Eleanor was aware of this. She was also aware that she was a widow of 38 who had not allowed herself to want anything uncomplicated in a very long time. The complication arrived in November from a man named Gerald Fitch. Fitch worked for one of the national sponsors and had the careful, pleasant manner of someone who delivered bad news as a profession. He came to the station unannounced, sat across from Eleanor in her office, and slid a photograph across the desk. It was Daniel. Or rather, it was not Daniel. The name printed beneath the photograph was Thomas Reed, former playwright, formerly of the Group Theatre in New York, formerly a name attached to a congressional investigation 3 years earlier, blacklisted in 1953. Fitch said the sponsor could not be associated with anyone on that list. He said Eleanor had until the end of the month to resolve the situation. He said this with the smooth regret of someone who had said similar things many times and had long since stopped feeling them. After he left, Eleanor sat in her office for a very long time. She did not go to Thomas immediately. She was not that kind of person. She went home instead, to the small apartment she had kept since Robert died, and she pulled out the box she kept at the back of the closet. It contained the things she had never been able to organize or throw away. Letters, programs, a review from the Globe, and at the bottom, a transcript she had kept because she could not explain why. It was from a radio broadcast. Not hers. A late-night program she had stumbled upon 6 weeks after Robert's death, when she could not sleep and had turned on the radio without expecting anything. The broadcast was a reading. A piece of writing about grief that was so precisely observed, so free of sentimentality, that she had sat on her kitchen floor and listened to the whole thing and then, for the first time since the funeral, cried in a way that felt like relief rather than collapse. She had never known who wrote it. She had written to the station and received no response. Now she looked at the name on Fitch's photograph. Thomas Reed. She looked at the date on the transcript. February 1954. 3 months after Thomas Reed had been blacklisted, when he would have been writing under any name that kept him working. She understood immediately. And then she understood the second thing, which arrived a moment later like a door opening onto a room she had not expected. If Thomas Reed had written that broadcast in 1954, he had also been writing in 1952. And 1952 was the year a series of anonymous articles in a Boston political journal had exposed financial irregularities at WBOS. Irregularities linked to Robert Whitcomb. The scandal that had shadowed the last year of Robert's life and that Eleanor had spent 3 years quietly, furiously refusing to discuss. She did not sleep that night. In the morning, she asked Thomas to stay after the others left. She put the photograph on the desk between them. She watched his face and saw something she had not expected, not fear, but a kind of stillness. The stillness of someone who has been waiting for a specific moment and has finally arrived at it. She asked him why he had not told her. He said he had been afraid she would not give him a chance if she knew. He said he had taken the job partly because he needed the work and partly because he had followed her career for years and believed the show was worth saving. He said he had told himself those were the only reasons. She asked about the broadcast from February 1954. He went very quiet. Then he said yes. He said he had written it under a borrowed name for a station in Providence. He said he had not known it reached her. He said that when he finally found out, when a colleague mentioned it months later, he had not known what to do with that information. She asked about the articles. About Robert. This was the hardest moment. She watched him decide to answer truthfully, watched him choose it. He said that what was in those articles was true. That he had not written them to harm Robert personally. That he had believed the public had a right to know how certain stations were managing their sponsor relationships. That he had not understood, until it was too late, how the exposure would land on a man who was already ill. He said he had carried that ever since. Eleanor stood up and walked to the window. Below, Boylston Street moved in its ordinary morning way. She had lived with 2 versions of Robert for 3 years, the man she loved and the man the articles had described. She had never been able to put them together into one person she could fully grieve. She asked Thomas to leave for the day. He left without arguing. Fitch called on Thursday. He wanted her decision. Her station manager called on Friday. He said the sponsor's concern had reached him. He said that if Eleanor publicly confirmed that Daniel Cross was Thomas Reed, the sponsor would walk. He said that if she said nothing and it came out later, the station's credibility was finished. He said he was sorry, but the program might need to be retired. He said this with genuine regret, which somehow made it worse. Eleanor understood the geometry of the problem. She could protect Thomas by staying silent and lose the show anyway when the truth surfaced. She could distance herself from Thomas publicly and preserve the funding. Or she could do something the station manager had not offered as an option, because it had not occurred to him that she would consider it. She called Thomas that evening. She asked him one question: if he could do it over, would he write the articles again? He said, "I would write them differently. I would find a way to report the truth without making one man carry all of it. But I would not stay silent." "No." She said, "Good. Because I need you to be someone I can respect." On Monday morning, Eleanor Whitcomb walked into her station manager's office and handed him a press release she had written herself over the weekend. It announced that Voices from the Commonwealth would be relaunching in January with a new format. It listed the producer as Eleanor Whitcomb. It listed the head writer as Thomas Reed, with a brief note explaining his background in theatre and his commitment to public interest broadcasting. His real name. In print. Attached to her program. The station manager read it twice. He said she understood this would cost them the current sponsor. She said yes. He said she understood it might cost them others. She said she understood. He looked at her for a long moment and then said he would need to make some calls. The sponsor withdrew that afternoon. 3 days later, a different sponsor called. A regional educational foundation that had been looking for a program aligned with its values. They had seen the announcement. They were interested. Eleanor did not tell Thomas about the sponsor call until it was confirmed. When she did, they were in the studio after a late session, the city quiet outside, the amber light long gone and the room lit only by the overhead bulb above the mixing board. He said he did not know what he had done to deserve this. She said he had written her back to herself on a night when she had almost stopped trying. She said that did not cancel out the rest of it, and that they would probably need a long time to work through the rest of it. But it was where she had decided to start. He did not move toward her. He was, she had come to understand, a man who had spent years learning not to presume. She crossed the distance herself. She put her hand against his face, just for a moment, and felt him exhale like someone setting down something very heavy. Voices from the Commonwealth relaunched on the 2nd of January, 1957. The new format opened each episode with a personal essay, followed by a reported piece, followed by a brief commentary from Eleanor herself. The listing in the Globe named her as producer and Thomas Reed as writer. It was the first time his real name had appeared in print in 4 years. The response was not immediate. These things never are. But by March, the program had found its audience again. Not the same audience. A larger one. Thomas moved his things into the studio properly. He had a desk now instead of a folding chair. Eleanor stopped bringing 2 cups of coffee from the corner cart because he had started bringing them instead, and she had decided to let him. She had not forgotten what he had done. She did not think she was supposed to. But she had come to believe that grief is not the same as a verdict, and that Robert deserved to be remembered fully, and that she deserved to keep building something with her own name on it. On a Wednesday evening in April, they walked out of the studio together and stood on the pavement on Boylston Street. The air smelled like rain and early spring, and the city was doing what it always does, moving forward without asking anyone's permission. Thomas said he had a question he had been meaning to ask for months. She said she had a feeling she knew what it was. He said he doubted that. She said, "Dinner, Thomas." The answer is yes. He laughed. She had not heard him laugh like that before, fully and without calculation. She filed it away carefully, the way she had always kept the things that mattered, not in a box at the back of a closet, but in the part of herself she planned to use.